Hey, welcome back. So in this video, the third video of the landscape series, I'm going to show you how to get some satellite photo imagery downloaded off a NASA website. And we're going to do some modifications to it in a software called Microdem. And after we do that, we're going to put it into World Machine, a free version of World Machine, and we're going to set it up so that we have height maps that will give us our terrain in Unreal Engine, as well as be able to set up our slopes for our terrain inside of Unreal Engine 2, so that as our textures are applied, they're using the slope data that we've used out of World Machine. So that should be pretty fun. It's going to take a little bit of time to do this. One of the things about the slope data is we'll also be able to set up our procedural grass doing that same thing and some other procedural foliage that we want to use. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time, you can check this out at Putting on the Fritz 3D Visualization. In the previous video, the very first video, it's kind of a long one because we got into making our material functions and our material that we use for that terrain, the one that you see in the background here. However, for this project, we are going to use those same material functions. We're going to make a slight modification to them so that we can apply additional materials and control the textures just a little bit better. And then we're going to make a new material using those material functions that will allow us to paint all of this terrain on, as you see here in just a second. All right, so let me go ahead and jump on in and show you what this looks like. Okay, so this is the world right here, and the material that we're going to use is going to be set up from this right here. And you can see I also have snow on here, which is something that we can paint on if I wanted to be able to paint that on somewhere. Okay, and you can see there that I just painted on some snow. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get all that set up, but let me show you what this kind of looks like right now. This is an area in the Grand Canyon. All right, and it is actually 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. I used the free version of World Machine to modify that satellite data I downloaded, and then used it to help me put these to set up these textures. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the limitations of that free version. You can easily end up with a high resolution 8K, so 8 kilometers by 8 kilometer area inside of Unreal Engine using this process, but you have to have the paid for version of World Machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the free version. We're going to end up with basically a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer world, and then we're going to expand it using the scale to set it up so that it is 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. That's going to require us to do some modifications to our textures, because when we do that, it's going to stretch everything. Okay, and we'll go through all that process. All right, so if I hit play, see my character, you can see all of my terrain. All of this foliage is procedural foliage that was put on and was set up to line itself with the grass material, which in this case I used this dirt down here on the bottom for my grass. But you can see that inside of this I have several different types of grass. I have these small shrubs of various sizes, and you can see a smaller one there, as well as some rocks. So if I come down this way a little bit, you can see that there are some rocks that have also been placed on the ground. All right, and one of the good things about this is when I hit play, you can see that my frames per second are hanging up there pretty good. So we're in 90 to 100 frames per second. And this is a pretty large world, okay? Now, this foliage is only set up to instantiate within certain distances of my player. So as I move along, more foliage will appear off in the distance, and the foliage behind me will disappear. And the terrain itself is set up as a world partition. So when I look around a little bit, you'll see that some of these mountains will have disappeared until I get close enough, and the terrain will start to appear as I move along. So we'll also learn how to set up our world partition for that as well. And I am using Unreal Engine 5.1, so it actually is a pretty easy process. Okay, so enough of taking a look at this. Let me go ahead and minimize this for a second. And actually, while I'm here, so world partition, right here you can see that this world is set up to be 8.06 kilometers by 8.06 kilometers, and the height of my elevation goes up to 2.18 kilometers. Okay, so, and this was using just the free version of World Machine. So we'll be able to get that done, but we have to, make some modifications. Now, let's go ahead and minimize this and talk a little bit about the different software, okay? So this is World Machine, and World Machine is what I use to pull in that satellite data once I modified it using Microdem and turn it into a GEO TIFF. And then basically this is an 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer area. These various slopes are what are used to set up my textures, as well as using the grass slope here to set up my grass and trees that you saw, or the grass and shrubs appearing in the game itself. Okay, and then here's the height map data that was used to create that terrain. Okay. Now I don't have Microdem open right now because I've discovered that with Microdem open, while I'm doing certain things, it starts to raise havoc with my system. So this may be a little bit of a frustrating recording once I get Microdem open. We'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and close World Machine for right now. We're not going to be using it for a little bit. We'll open Microdem when we're ready, but let's go ahead and talk about where to get these various software. Okay, so here is World Machine. Okay, so if you go to www.world-machine.com, and I'll have this in the links below, you'll see that this is the first part of what we need to download. And if you go here to the download piece, it'll give you a little bit more information about it. Okay, this is a free community edition. It's got some limitations. Okay, for one, I don't think World Machine is compatible with Mac or Linux at all. So if you're watching this and you're using a Mac, you may not be able to use this setup. Okay. The other thing is that, again, this is not a limited trial. This is a fully featured version that you can use for as long as you want. Okay. The restriction is that you're going to only get 1025 by 1025 pixels. Okay. Now that scene I showed you on Unreal Engine, I used it at 1025 by 1025. And I converted it to the Unreal Engine friendly 1009 by 1009. I used 63 quads. So this right here are the recommended landscape sizes for Unreal Engine 5.1. You can see that right up here. Okay. All right. So, and here is an 8129 by 8129. And if you were to import one that had this many vertices set up into it, you would get an 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer world, just as I demonstrated. You can also get a 4 kilometer, a 2 kilometer, a 1 kilometer, and you can modify these into the various sizes you need as well. And you can modify all these too. And we'll take a look at how to do all that. Okay, but what it works out to be is about these sizes here that they show. And when we first import our terrain after we modify it in World Machine, because it's going to be 1025 by 1025, our world will be about 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. Okay, and then that's where we'll do the modification. All right, so let's jump back in. So here, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the differences. All right, if we go to the purchase one, okay, the indie one is 119. I'm not saying you need to purchase these by any means, but if this is something you think is a tool that you're going to want to use and you want to get into a professional level using it, you may want to consider upping your game a little bit. But for learning and for getting all of your start and getting your stuff out there, I think the free version will work just fine for you. Okay. But to take a look at these, this one is a 1-year license for $119. This one has unlimited build. It is true. This is the version I'm using right now, is the indie version. And because I wanted to see what kind of resolution I could really get with it. And I did get the 81 over 8,000 pixels one, which did convert into an 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer world inside of Unreal Engine when I first imported it in. The biggest limitation for this one is when you go to build the world out, it is only using 4 CPU threads. And to build out that 8 kilometer world on my machine, which is a pretty hefty machine, it still took me over an hour. Okay. And I think that's because of the threads. So I think any CPU with 4 threads or more, it would probably still be about the same as mine. Okay. Now, the next one up, of course, you can unlimited resolution, all the available CPU threads. You can use multi-monitor, which I guess it's useful when you're concentrating on building just straight out worlds, but for what we're about to do, a multi-monitor is probably not necessary. You can do a massive worlds using tiled terrains, and there's some other things you can do as well. Okay, so that's the differences between them. The next piece of software you need to download. Now, if you're one of my students and you're following along with me here in Classroom, both World Machine and Microdem are already installed on our computers. You do not need to install these on our computers, and please do not try. For anybody else, you're going to need these, okay? So Microdem is a U.S. Naval Academy software, and it's for free. And you can get it out there. You'll go to the you can go to the USNA EDU stuff and dig around, try to find it. I'll have this direct link for the download set up. You can also Google Microdem and look for it that way as well. You're going to want to do the complete Microdem install, okay? And some notes about this. It is going to want to install on the C drive of your computer. So make sure you have room for it. It's not a huge program, 20 megabytes, but make sure you have room for it. It's going to install the program, and it's also going to make an additional folder with some subdirectories called map data. This is important because we're going to have to find the map data /temp folder later on to get our TIFF file after we save it. Okay, so we're going to need to find our GeoTiff. All right, so those are the software. Let's go ahead and talk about where we get the imagery from. So here is probably one of the better sites to get it from. It's easy to use, straightforward. Now, you will need to set up a sign-in, and I've unfortunately already signed in. So over here, there would be a sign-in, and then when you click on the sign-in button, there'll be a spot to register. So go ahead and register, because in order to download this software, you're going to have to register. It is free. All of this is free. So let's go ahead and go to where we need to get the information from. You're going to go to Get Data, and you're going to go to the ASF vertex, okay? So this is from asf.alaska.edu. So, okay. And once we get here, okay, and I will put this direct link into the links below. And you can see over here, this is where you would sign in at, okay? And it's pretty simple, okay? This is a map of the world. If you left click and hold the left mouse, you can scroll around and you can find all these different areas to search from. Okay. I have not used this site for much outside of the United States. I've mostly been focusing on areas I know, so I could verify that the terrain is looking fairly correct. So I'm going to stick with what I know, but if you want to try these other ones, most certainly I believe you could probably find data on a lot of these different spots, and the resolution may change, but I'm going to use a satellite that has 12.5 meters per pixel. So, you know, not the world's best, but it's very good, okay? And we're going to actually modify that using Microdem to make it so that we have 1 pixel per kilometer. Now, that does not improve the actual resolution of the imagery per se, but what it does do is makes it more friendly for Unreal Engine, and it kind of smooths things out a little bit. All right, so once you find the spots you want to use, and the previous one I used was the Grand Canyon, I'm going to go to something a little bit more foresty, I think, so that basically, more foresty, so we can talk about putting in trees and things like that, because in my demo that I showed you, I just used some procedural stuff. We didn't do any terrain painting for foliage painting rather. So we're going to go ahead and just pick a spot. I'm going to pick a spot right around here in the Aspen area. I'm going to try to get some of these mountains like right in this area here. Kind of make this a little bit interesting. And you know what, maybe, yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and do this area right in here, okay? So the way you do this is if you click and then drag, okay? So you click and let go, okay? And then once you get to a spot that you want, and I'm going to kind of make this a little bit square, not that it really matters because the satellite data is going to be whatever it's going to be, okay? So once we've got it drawn out, we've got this box. Now, I'm going to go up here to where it says data set. Right now it's set up on Sentinel-1, and we just use a polygon to do our area of interest, okay? And we're not going to worry about dates. We're just going to take whatever we can find. So right here it says Sentinel-1. I'm going to hit the down arrow, and I'm going to change from Sentinel-1, which is basically, this is a synthetic aperture radar, okay? It was a C-band. What I want to use is this Allos Pulsar, okay? This one was actually set up for mapping, okay, and it does precise regional land coverage observations. So this one should work for, I know that at least works for the northern United States, so that'll work. But if you want to know more about the different satellite systems or mapping systems, you can scroll through here and see what else they've used in here, okay? But for this, we're going to use Allos Pulsar, and once I have that selected, I'm going to go over here and hit the search button, and it's going to do its little calculation. Okay, there we go. And what I want to try to do is find something that is going to be here where my yellow box is at. So I'm going to click on this top one right here, okay, and because the covers that box area, and there's quite a few in this particular area, it looks like, okay? And you can zoom out and you can see that there's some very large ones as well, but I'm going to pick this smaller one. It'll be easier to work with, and as it is, this area that we selected is probably quite large, and we'll find out what that is here in a minute. Now I selected that top box there. There's also a couple other ones underneath that are facing the other direction, kind of in another orientation, but I think this one I've got right here is okay. And when I clicked on it, it's highlighted down here. And what it's telling me over here is it's a resampled DEM, so digital earth mapping, okay? So that's what we want. We want a DEM, okay? And it's either using SRTM or NED used for RTC processing, okay? So what we want is that one. And if we scroll down a little bit, we can kind of see what a sample of that will look like. And there's actually two different ones. We can click here, see what the other one looks like, and it kind of lays it over the top of it. Okay. All right, so that's the one we want. I'm going to go ahead and right here where it says high res terrain corrected, because I want to go ahead and use the high res, and I want to use the terrain corrected. I'm going to go all the way to the right here where it says download file. Okay. Now you could add it to your shopping cart, I guess, if you wanted to have multiple downloads, but I'm going to try this one. Go ahead and download it. All right, so now it's downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and go to my folder here, okay? And you can see I've been playing around with this a little bit the last few days. So this is the one I want right here. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on it, and I'm just going to go ahead and extract all right here. Okay, and you can see that it's creating this folder for me. Okay, there it is. And I double click on this just to double check. What we're looking for is one that actually says DEM, so a .dem right here, okay? And it shows it as a TIFF file. Yeah, and I click on it, it's gonna be kind of black like this. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a .dem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my downloads folder, and I'm going to go to my D drive. I've got one called Sat Imagery. Somewhere, there it is. Okay, and you can see I've been playing around with this for a while. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and right-click. I'm going to create a new folder. And this one I'm going to call Aspen. Okay, and underscore CO, actually all one word, Aspen CO like that. Microdem gets mad when we have spaces, and it may give you some weird warnings. So like right here, it was giving me a warning about this one earlier. All right, so go there, go back up one level, grab this folder, and just drop it in there because everything I'm going to do and modify is going to be right in here. Okay. All right, so now I can go ahead and close my downloads. Leave this one open for now. Just minimize it. Okay, so we've got our satellite data, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure anything I don't need open is closed right now. Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll leave all this open because we're going to use this right here in a few minutes. So this is another site. This will be one that I give on a link, but it's also a link on another site I was using somewhere, maybe not. All right. Anyway, yeah. So this site right here, I'll give you as a link. This one will help us calculate our actual size of our map area. Okay, so our latitude, longitude from one point to the next point, and it'll give us what our distance is, and we're going to want to make sure that it's in kilometers. Okay, so I'll give you the link to this one when we get ready to use it. All right, and then the last thing is we're going to also give you the link for this Unreal Engine one here, because we're going to talk a lot about these numbers over here on the left and how to set them up using the rest of this. Okay, so let's download that. We don't need that open right now. So now I'm going to go ahead and open up Microdem. Okay, and hopefully it doesn't freak everything out on my computer and lock me up. All right, so at this point it looks like we're still good. Okay, so once we get Microdem open, and you saw we just open it up, we're basically there was a little info thing I just closed. I should have showed it to you, but all it is just a little info thing. It's a little window. You just hit X and close it. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to go up here to File. We're going to go to Open. We're going to open a DEM grid. Okay, and that's where we're going to go to our folder where we saved all this. Double click, go into here, and we're going to find that DEM. Okay, and it should look something like this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it. Does this little calculation, it opens, and there we have it. Okay, this is what I downloaded from that Aspen area. Okay, and right now it's probably pretty big. Okay, and let's see exactly what this measurement size is. I'll demonstrate how to do that real quick. I'm going to go up here to Info, our map. Okay, so right here, it tells us quite a bit about this particular area. Okay. Our Z range, it says, is from 0 to 4,397 meters, which I find interesting that it's at 0. But anyway, right here, our horizon. So this is our pixel size, our 12.5 by 12.5 meter. Okay. So yeah, and we can tell that the screen size right now, this is the number of pixel size. But this is what we're going to use next. Okay, this area right here, we're going to go ahead and use that with that website to calculate our latitude and our longitude and latitude. Okay, so this is our northwest. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Can I actually copy it from here? Copy those first numbers there. And this is our north. Okay, that's latitude. This is longitude. It might be just as quick to type this out, actually. Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and type it out. And this is our west, okay? All right, so, and it didn't save it anyway. So, okay, let's go ahead and just do this. So, 107, and that's actually going to be 0.30. 0.30. I'm just going to round that up. The first one is good. Okay. So that's our first number. And then we want to know from corner to corner. So this is our northwest corner. So the west side being over here, our northwest. This is our northeast corner right here. Okay, so northwest corner, northeast corner. So we want to know what the distance across is. And so we're going to put in, now this one should be pretty much the same unless we have this at a diagonal. Okay, so 3944, and then this one right here is going to be 106.36. This is going to be a pretty good size because of this differences between the numbers. And oops, let me see here, 107.3, and this should be 106.36. Yeah, okay. So now we're going to go ahead and change it to kilometers, and we're going to compute it, and that's 81 kilometers across. So let's go ahead and write that down. Okay, 81 kilometers, okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and figure out what our distance down is. We'll just keep the northwest numbers, and we'll change the southwest down here. So this should be 38.82 because I'm rounding it up to 2-digit decimal point, and it should be 107.30. Okay, so this one should be the same as our other westing. Let's go ahead and compute that. So this is an 81 kilometer from east to west. And then from north to south, this is going to be 69 kilometers. Okay. So what we're going to do is, because I want to try to keep this in a small enough size, because one of the processes we're going to do is we're going to smooth out this map after we add additional pixels to it. And that smoothing process can take a very long time based off of the size of your map area. Okay, I'm going to minimize this. So it can take hours. Okay, if you something this large could probably take 7 to 10 hours. Okay, depending on your computer. So what I want to do is I'm going to go in and cut this down to about 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers because that's the size area that we have available in the Unreal Engine setup, right? So if we go back here to our text setup, we have this 4033 by 4033. Okay. So that's what we're going to use. Okay, we're going to just make this 4 by 4 just to make it easier on us. So, a couple ways we can do this, but probably the easiest is to go in and right click on the screen right here. And what we want to do is we're going to go to Legends and pull that up. And we're going to go ahead and get our scale bar. We're going to turn on the scale bar. Okay, we're going to say OK. All right, now we have this scale bar. And the next thing I'm going to do is right click again, and I'm going to just go ahead and zoom in. Okay, and I'm going to try to keep it in this center area right here because this is kind of what I'm looking for my map. I kind of want to catch some of this interest in here. Okay, so now we're down to 10 kilometers. We're going to go ahead and zoom in again. Okay, that's a 5 kilometer scale right here. You can see the scale size still really, really big. Right click again. I'm going to zoom in again. Okay, now we're at 2.5 kilometers for this area. So this is actually going to be pretty big. So I'm thinking I might focus on this section right here in the middle. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and zoom in again. Okay, we're getting closer, but wow, this is going to be kind of big. Let's scoot it over just a little bit, I think. I try to keep the interest right here in the middle. Something like that, probably. All right, I'm going to zoom in again, and you can see that it's getting really kind of ugly right here. So this is 1,000 meters across right here, okay? So let's see. This is probably going to be a 3 kilometer by 3 kilometer. So let's zoom out one level. It's probably too much. And we'll go ahead and play with this, okay? Okay. So, I'm going to recenter this just a little bit better. Not getting quite what I want. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go up here to File, and we're going to save Dem Grids, and we're going to go with the current subset. Okay. And this is going to go into our Aspen, Colorado. I'm going to drop it one level up. Okay. So I'm still in my Aspen, Colorado folder for this one, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in here, and we're going to call this one Aspen underscore, I'm going to call this initial crop. So INT crop, okay, for my initial cropping. Just some place to start so I can check my measurements. I'm going to go ahead and save that, okay. Now, just because we saved it, unlike other programs where it automatically opens it back up for you, this is still that original map, okay. So we can go ahead and, actually I'm going to leave that one open for right now. I'm going to go back into my file. I'm going to go to Open. Okay, again, Open Dem Grid. And I'm going to go up one level. And here is my crop. Okay, so I'm going to open that up. And there it is right there. Okay. And now if I were to go back up here to Info. And for Map, I'm just going to pull up a second one here. Okay, we can do a comparison. So yeah, there we go. My Z range is actually kind of popping back into what I would have expected. All right, so here we can see that this is pixels 1003 by 839. This was 1004 by 859. Hasn't really changed much, but our screen pixel size has. Okay. Now, if we go back here, we can see that here are our dimensions for this again. And this is kind of a tedious process. We're going to go back and forth. It's not a, there's not like a quick cut it to what you want because it's not the way it's set up. So I'm going to close this top one since I don't need that open. I don't want to get confused by it. And we're going to go with this one. Pull back up my latitude, longitude again. Okay. And this time I'm going to go ahead and check. So 3924 for my northwest. And 106.87. Okay, and then my other corner right here, again, it's going to be 3924 because we kept it straight across. And now this one is going to be the one that gives us our distance. So this is going to be 106.81. Okay, let's go ahead and compute that. That gets us down to 5 kilometers. Okay, we're getting close. And we'll play with that just a little bit more here in a second. Okay, so that's 5 kilometers across now. And we might just leave it at 5. That way we don't have to keep playing back and forth with this. So let's just double check what our top and bottom are. So we're going to change this here. So we're going to go from our northwest to our southwest corner. So this is going to be 39.20. Okay, so 39.20. You see right where actually, yeah, 20 because we rounded up. And then this is going to be 106.87. Okay. All right. And we're going to compute that. And that's actually 4 kilometers. All right, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to have to set it so, because we want these to be square because it's going to work best in World Machine if we're square. So we got 4 kilometers. So let's go ahead and drop this down another kilometer. So we want to go a little bit shorter, so move that out of the way. I'm going to right click on here, okay, and I'm going to go down to modify map area, okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to use keyboard corners, okay, and the 341 rows is our left is actually our top to bottom. Our left to right. Yes, so this is our 4 kilometers, our top to bottom. Our left to right is 397. We wanted to match the 341 so that it's square. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to subtract to get 41. Okay, so 398 minus 341 is 57. Yeah. All right, so we're going to subtract 57, so that should be 340, I believe. There we go. All right, so now we've got it squared, and we're going to go ahead and say OK. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and save this subset again. File. Oops. There we go. Click on. We got to click on this. I'm going to say File. Save dim. Current subset. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and call this one Aspen. Now mine is Aspen. I'm calling it Aspen because that's where I got it from. If you got yours from somewhere else, go with that, okay? So we're going to call this 4K, okay? For 4 km, actually, for kilometers, okay? We don't want to get confused by resolution. So 4 km, 4 kilometers, okay? So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go ahead and open Dem Grid, open my 4 kilometer one, say open, okay? Now, I want to check just one last time, okay? I know it's a little bit redundant, but just to double check to be on the safe side, it is squared, but it should be 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers. So the bottom one, this one right here, should not have changed from what we had before. Southwest 3920 by 106.87. Okay, that's the same. So what should have changed is, so it should be 3924 by 108.87. And let me see, we wanted to change the left to right, right? So this one should be different right here. This should be 39.24. So it should be the same as the top up there, okay? And then this should be 106. Let's see here, 106.82. Okay, compute, and that's 4 kilometers. All right. So we're good. So we're going to go ahead and move this out of the way. Close this. The other thing we're going to want to do is let's just go ahead and capture our Z range right here. So our Z equals 2285 to 3017, and that's meters, okay? We're going to want to we're going to need to possibly make some adjustments inside a world machine when we have that, okay? And we might find it useful in Unreal Engine as well. Okay, so now, again, we're at 12.5 by 12.5. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to grab this one and move it out of the way first. Just move it down just a little bit. I'm going to close these other ones. We don't need them open anymore. Okay, so this is our... Just to double check, this is my Aspen 4 kilometer one, okay? So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to interpolate this, okay? And interpolate is where we're going to go from the 12.5 meters per pixel to 1 meter per pixel. So we're going to go up to File, and we're going to save Dem again, and we're going to go, whoops, wrong button. Go File, Save Dem. We're going to go down to Interpolate Dem Grid, so right down here, and then we're going to reinterpolate at UTM. Okay? And you're going to get this little button that pops up, okay? And we're going to go from 15 to 1, okay? Spacing for new dem in meters, okay? And we'll get this little counter across here. Because we dropped this down to 4 kilometers, it's not going to take as long. But if you were working with a much larger map, it would take a very long time. Okay? So now we've got this. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and save it so that we don't have to do this again if we lose it. And I'm going to go ahead and save current subset. And we're going to I'm just going to call it 4 kilometer, and I'm going to just put interp in here. Okay, I'm going to save that. I'm going to close it. File, open dem grid, pull up the interp, and when I do that, you're going to see that it looks a little bit different. Okay, that's why we wanted to do that. Now, if we were to zoom in really close on this map, you'd see that this is not really looking so good. And when we did that, and we'll just go ahead and double check. We'll go up to Info, Map, and right now it should say the horizontal is 1 by 1. Okay, right here. Okay, so we did what we wanted to do. And go ahead and close this. So the next thing we want to do, I'm going to right click. I'm going to go ahead and hide my legends. So I'm going to turn off my scale bar. We don't need that anymore. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to smooth this out, because if you take a look at it, you can see we've got these kind of steps in here. We don't want to have that to be quite so drastic. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're going to go up to here, up to raster. We're going to go to filter, dim grid, and then we're going to go to the first one, which is a median filter. Okay. I'm going to select that. And for the median, we're going to want to go with 12, okay? And I'd pull my little box over here to show you what that looks like for processing time. But well, let me see. Is it going to let me? No, it's not going to let me. Right now, it's calculating. It's going to take a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pause. Okay, so now that is done. Let's go ahead and go back into our raster. Okay, and we're going to go back to filter, dim grid, and now we're going to go to our mean filter right here. Okay, and we'll end up with this little box, and we want to go ahead and change this from 2 to 3. We're going to go ahead and say okay, and we're going to end up with another little box moving across, which looks like this. This is what the last one looked like. And this one should take significantly less time. I'm still going to go ahead and pause it. Okay, so now we've got all of that done. I'm going to go ahead and go to File. I'm going to go to Save Dim Grid, Current Subset. And I'm going to go ahead and call this one. I'm going to change the interp to final. So 4 kilometer final. Go ahead and save that. I'm going to close this one and the previous ones. Go ahead and open. And we're going to go ahead and open that final. All right, so it doesn't look significantly different, but it is. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to want to go ahead and turn this into a GeoTiff. Okay. So we're going to go up here to File. We're going to save Dim Grid, and we're going to go down to Geotiff. Okay. And it's going to ask us, where do you want to save it? And I'm going to say the same folder, but what actually is going to happen is it's not going to save there. It's going to most likely save somewhere else. So actually it did. All right, so it did save in this folder. Sometimes it does not, okay? And if yours is that case and it didn't save in the folder that you wanted to put it in, what you need to do is you need to go to your C drive, find your map data. So this is the map data that was created, okay? And then go into temp. And inside your temp, you'll find this temp dem right here, okay? And I probably should have Just open this up real quick just to double check to make sure the dimensions are right. So 4251. Okay, so this is the same one. Just wanted to double check. But here it also saves it. So if you do not get this saved in here as your TIFF file, okay, and this should be a GeoTiff file, then it's going to be stuck into this folder here, C drive map data temp, and it's going to be called temp dem. And you're going to have to copy and paste it into your project folder, because once you close this Microdem out, it clears all this information. It goes away. So you'll lose this one right here, okay, if you don't do that. That's why we saved it, just in case you need to come back. If you lose it, you can come back and find it. All right, so that's where it's located if it does not show up in the folder that you saved it in. All right, so now we've got everything we need to go ahead and put this into our world machine. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Yeah, go ahead and close it. All right, and I'm going to open up world machine. Okay, so with World Machine, it opens up as a new project, and every project opens up with these little, this little temporary type, or I guess initial terrain, and you can use all of these different nodes to create a terrain from scratch. And that's one of the great things about World Machine is if you wanted to just totally make a realistic looking terrain, with all of the different features that it has, and you can do everything I'm about to show you without using any imagery. You can make just an original terrain. You can follow along and do that here. There are lots of tutorials on how to do that, and but I'm not going to get into that. All right, so I'm going to highlight, select all of this, and delete it. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to import our file. So we can go to Generator. Okay, so little tabs across the top. There's a bunch of different tabs, and you can see this is a new project, and we'll save it here in a second. But I'm just going to kind of highlight on the buttons that we are going to want to use, okay? So first thing first, I guess before we get into actually doing this, right here, there's this little project settings, okay? If you click on project settings, we open this up, you'll see that you have these different resolution options here. Okay, if you're using the download free version, your max option is going to be 1025. Okay, for your power of 2+1. Okay, now there's actually one here that is a UE4 one, but I'm going to leave this at the power of 2+1, and then we'll just convert it back into the 1009. It's going to kind of play around a little bit with our scale, but it'll be close enough. You won't be able to tell. So I'm going to leave it at this one. Okay. If we hit the estimate to build, of course, there's nothing in here right now. So the visual area that we have to see is a 4 kilometer by 4 kilometer with width and breadth of being 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. We can go into project setups and kind of play around with our units of measurements. But since we're working with kilometers, we're not going to play around with any of this stuff. The only thing we do want to make sure that we have going for us is this, this right here. We're going to make sure that we're at power of 2+1, and we're at 1025 by 1025, since I think that's the max you're going to be able to use with the free one. We can go ahead and say OK. And right along the top here, there are all these different tool tabs, and we're going to use a couple of these different ones, but I'm not going to get too much into all of this. Now, I believe with the free version, you should be able to split your primary viewport. Okay, so right along the top up here, here was our project settings. Scroll down, there's this little 4x1. If you click on that, it should open another window over here, and this is going to give us a larger 3D view of our world as we create it. So let's go ahead and click on the Generator tab, and then right here in the center there's this one that's a disk. That's for file input. Click on that, and then come down somewhere in here and just click in the scene. Okay, and it should leave a file input. Double click on it, and it'll open up this. Okay. And we're pretty much going to leave everything everything to default right here. Okay, I'm going to hit the open folder, and we're going to go find our project. Okay, and mine is in my D drive under my satellite imagery, Aspen, And I want that TIFF file that we just made. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to say open. And when we do that, just like magic, our world should pop open into here. Okay. Now, it's got a lot of the original key features, which is great. But we're going to want to enhance these just a little bit. Okay. I want to go ahead and click on the Nature tab because I am going to add some erosion back in. So right now on my version of World Machine, the third one in is erosion. Okay. Again, click on it, then click down here. We're going to go ahead and add that in there. And it just gives us some subtle changes. So if you click on the first one, you can see there's a little bit of subtle changes. We have some erosion added in. It's kind of actually taken away some of the original erosion that was on our world. Actually, no, it left it in there, it looks like, but it converted it a little bit deeper. And we can double click on this and you can play around with the different numbers in here to get a look that you're looking for. If you click on Show Advanced Settings, you can play around with the erosion intensifier. So if we wanted to increase the amount of erosion over time or slow it down, okay, so it's not so much. If you wanted to make it so that there was harder rocks, so maybe it was a hard granite, you can slide that up. So I'm going to slide that up a little bit. Sediment carry is basically how much mud, soil, and dirt gets carried away when erosion happens over time. You can play around with that number. We already played with the intensifier a little bit. Here's your duration. You can change your duration of time. So if you play around with these a little bit, you can see kind of what it does. And if you kind of mess everything all up, you can always just delete this or, yeah, actually just delete it and then either put a new one in or just leave it out. But I'm going to leave mine this way because I kind of like the way I've got it set up now. I've added some additional erosion for details, which is going to be nice in Unreal Engine. Bringing in the actual map itself would have missed some of the inline details that we're getting here. So I'm going to leave this alone. I'm going to go ahead and say close after I've made those changes. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and go to Output. So right here, this tab. The second one in from here, it says Height Output. We're going to click on that. I'm going to click. I'm going to drag. I'm going to connect that there. Okay. So this is going to be our actual height map output. So I'm going to double click on it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and set it up for where I want it to go. Right now it's a PNG 16-bit. That's what I want. I'm going to use that as my height map. You can also use raw 16, but I've run into some issues lately. So I'm going to skip that. The PNG has worked all the time for me. So if you click on the little folder right here, this gives us a chance to name it and put it somewhere. So I am going to go to my C drive, my D drive actually. Okay, and I'm going to go back into my satellite imagery folder. Actually, this is my World Machine projects. I'm going to put it in I made a folder called World Machine Projects. So I'm going to put it in that folder I made. I'm going to get a new folder, and we're going to call this one, for me, this is my Aspen. For wherever you picked in the world, name it that. Okay, I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to change it from a raw to a PNG, and I'm going to call this one my Aspen height. Okay, and that's going to be my Aspen height. And then right here where it says output file on every build, I'm going to click that. I'm going to select that. Okay, and I'm going to close it. When we go to build this out, that's when we'll get all of our maps, and I'll show you how that works here in a minute. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go to Selector. So this tab up here called Selector, and there's a bunch of these again. If we hover over the one that looks like a shark fin again, this one is actually, this time it's a select height. Okay, and actually I think I want slope. Yeah, so this one right here at the very end looks like a weird kind of shark fin. We're going to select that one, and I'm going to select 3 of those. All right, and I've actually put them up over here. Okay, so this first one, I'm going to double click on it. We're going to name this one Grass Slope. Okay, and from the erosion output, the top one here, I'm going to connect this to the top there. Okay. Now if we take a look, this is defaulted to 0 to 33, and we have a fall off of 23, and we're using a smooth step for the fall off. I'm going to move the fall off to 0, okay, and you can see that makes a huge difference. And for my grass slope, I'm going to max this out at like probably around 10, something like that, okay? So 0 to 10, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and close that. Next one down, again, I'm going to connect this up. Double click on it. We're going to call this dirt slope. Okay. And so for the dirt, I'm going to want to kind of concentrate in that little valley area, kind of at the base of a hill, but before it goes out into grass. I'm going to move my fall off out. I'm going to move this up to the 10 because that's where we kind of start that transition. And you can actually type this right in if you want to. Okay. And for my high altitude, so you can zoom in and you can use your left mouse button to click and drag this around, okay? So the middle mouse button to zoom in. All right. You can also use WASD if you hold the button, or just WASD, and it kind of moves around. All right, so this is getting kind of the look I want. And there's going to be kind of an overlap between my grass and dirt, I hope. We'll have to play around with that a little bit. And it goes out to 33, and I think that'll be all right. And we turned the fall off out, and we named it. So we're going to close that. So the last one, we're going to call this rock, okay? So we're going to double click on it. This is going to be my rock slope. Okay. And so we're going to go all the way up to the top, 90 degrees, and we're going to start this one off at 33, maybe 32 and a half. Okay. And let's see what that looks like. That should hit all of that. And we're going to turn off the fall off for this one too. Okay. So we don't end up with too much bleed over. All right. And we're going to go ahead and close that. So now we've got our setups for that. So we need to get our outputs, right? So let's go back to our output. And we're going to go ahead and get 3 of these height outputs. That's what we're turning this into, is a height map. Okay. So for the top one, I'm going to double click on it. And we're going to change this name to grass. So we know what this one's for. So grass height output. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to select our folder. Going to go to my C drive, or D drive rather. Okay, why are you not working? There we go. Let's see, into my project folder. Okay, change it to a PNG, and this one is going to be my grass height. Okay, and we're going to build that output file every time we build it. Okay, there is a write to disk choice right here, and we want to make sure it's PNG 16. All right, we're going to go ahead and close that. Now double click this again, the second one down. This one is going to be our dirt. Okay, same process. Don't know why it's doing this to me every time. Okay. Okay. This is going to be dirt height. And we're going to change this to a PNG here. Say that there. Okay, and we're going to build it. Close. Connect it up. And you can see that these are no longer 3-dimensional, they're 2-dimensional. Okay, we're going to connect this rock one up. Same deal, double click. Find where it goes. Okay, we're going to call this rock height. Output it as a PNG. Save that. Change this name to rock. And output every time we build it. Okay. And we're going to close it. All right, so now go ahead and go back into my volume D here, go to my world machine projects. All right, so inside my Aspen folder here is empty. When I go to build this, okay, so we're going to go ahead, and it doesn't matter where we have it selected, but up here along the top, we have these little choices. These right here change our layout views, just so you know. If I click this, this goes to that same view that we have right here. So this is our device working view. This is our layout view, so you can see what it looks like from a layout point of view, how we have it set up for that particular node. Again, world view, and then this is our 3D view. All right, and then these are our builds, okay? And we're going to go ahead and we're build the current device, so it would only build out to this selected device I have. So everything in between to this one, it wouldn't do these. This one right here is the one we want. We're going to select build worlds. A little window will pop up. It'll take a certain amount of time based on the complexity of our preset, which in this case was the 1025 by 1025 pixels. So now we have our height map as well as all of our other maps. Okay. So I'm going to leave this open just in case we need to come back. Let's go ahead and save it real quick. File. Save world as. Okay, this is going to go into my world machine projects, which is not this one. Okay. You can always go in and change your default. All right, so this is going to go into this folder here. I'm going to save that, and now that's also part of that folder. All right, minimize this. Last step is we're going to go ahead and open Epic, and we're going to go ahead and put this into the previous project that we did. Okay, so we did a world machine project already. Okay, we did a terrain project where we built our landscapes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pick my landscape project, and I'm trying to think which one it was, because we're going to build out our different ones anyway. So anyway, pick your landscape project that we did last time in video number 1 and 2. The reason why we're doing that is because our material functions should already be in there. Yes, they should be. And we're going to make some modifications to these. So, but we should have our three default material functions in there. All right, so right now it's opening default to landscape 1. That's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to File, and we're going to create a new level. Okay, we're going to pick this empty world. And actually, before we do that, I'm going to hit cancel. Sorry. I'm going to go to my outliner. So we're going to want to, if you've already hit the button, sorry, jump back real quick to your default project, your landscape 1 or whatever it is. We're going to do something real quick. We're going to go ahead and copy each of these here across the top. So we're going to, okay, everybody, I'm going to jump in here for a second because as I'm going through this process, I just demonstrated to you to copy and paste in all of that lighting stuff. Do not bring in the sky sphere, okay? So the sky sphere is going to cause an issue when we go to build out the mini-map, which is what you see behind my head right here. So let me go ahead and get my face out of the way. All right. So this mini map right here is what we're going to end up trying to build out. And then at the top, you're going to see that I'm going to have some errors. And I'll comment about this in the video here in a minute as you're following along. But basically, what is causing the problem is by adding the sky sphere over here, it's going to make it so that the map won't build out correctly. The world will change in dimension, okay? Now, when we first import this, it's going to be 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, and then after we make the modification, multiply it by 4. So make it 400 by 400 in the scale. It will then look like this, okay? And this is what it should look like. But in the video, I'm going to have an error, and we're just going to end up closing with that error. And that error is because right over here is where we had the sky dome. So if I go back into this level here, you'll see that we have this SM sky sphere that we've been added into one of our previous projects. And this SM sky sphere is what's going to be causing this problem. So we're going to leave that out. Okay, so ignore when I say to do that. Everything should work fine, exactly the way it's supposed to. And we should go from there. All right. We want our directional lighting, our exponential height fog, our sky atmosphere, skylight. We're going to use this sky sphere again, and also our volumetric cloud. Okay, so Control C. Oops, Control Z. What did I just do? All right, Control C. There we go. And now we're going to go ahead and go to File, New Level, and we're going to pick this empty world right here. Okay. So we want the world one, but we're going to select it as an empty, and we're going to create. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a folder. We're going to call it lighting. We'll call it lighting. Okay. And then inside that folder, we're going to right click on that folder, and that's not going to be a choice. We're going to go ahead and Control V and paste. And so that should go with the folder selected. Control V, paste, should bring in all of our lighting we need, okay? All right, so with that in, the next thing we need to do is we need to import our world. So let's go up here and go to File. Let's go ahead and save current level as, and we're going to call this, wow, I already have a world machine one in here. We're going to call this, we'll just call this world machine. Or you know what? I'm going to call this the world that I have. I'm going to call it Aspen. That'll work. Okay, we'll just call it Aspen. Whatever your name for your world was, you can call it that too, wherever you got it from. Okay, so now it's been saved. I'm going to hit the down arrow up here underneath title, and we're going to go to landscape. Okay. And with the landscape selected, we're going to go ahead and right here where it says import from file, we're going to click on import from file. Okay. And what we want to do is right here where it says height map file, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit the little 3 dots. And we're going to go find our world machine project, our Aspen, for me, my Aspen, and I'm going to find my height map. And I'm going to say open. Okay, and you can see now it says 1025 by 1025. Okay, we're going to go ahead and if we take a look back here, we're going to go with this one right here, 1009 by 1009, 63. We're going to leave it 2 by 2, and this is still going to leave us with 126 with 64 components here. Okay, so what does that mean? Come back down here, change this to 1009. And we're going to do 1009, okay? And all of our numbers should fit exactly the way we want them to, okay? All right. Let's go ahead and hit import. What did I? Is this right? 8x8 name our components 8x8. Let me just double check that real quick. Yes, 8x8. Okay. So go ahead and import. It'll take a second. And there is my terrain. Okay. Now, we go back into our outliner. I'm going to change from landscape mode to selection. And right down here on my landscape, if I hit the down arrow, you can see we have all of these different segments that have been added in. Okay. We have this fog that's occurring right now. I'm going to turn off that fog so you can see our world. Okay. But this is actually 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, I believe. So if we go up here, and if you don't have world partition opened already, well, that's much bigger than I was expecting it to be. So anyway, your world partition should be right up here. Go to Window and go to right here, World Partition, and select your World Partition Editor. Something is... Oh, the reason why is because we haven't actually built our mini-map yet. We have to build our mini-map to be able to get our actual specs. So let's go ahead and build our mini-map real quick. So with our landscape selected, go up here to Build, and we're going to go and build our mini-map. So if you go down to World Partition, Build Mini-Map, and select that, say Save Selected. And this will take a minute. Okay, so now we've got it built out. Let's go ahead and select our landscape one more time and go to our details section. We're going to want to hit this here and re-zero everything. And it looks like our altitude scale is tremendous. Wow. We'll probably want to reduce that a little bit. Overall resolution is 1009 by 1009. And if I hit the play button, let's see what this feels like. Okay. Mountain's tremendously big. Okay. Turn that fog off again. Yep, and that's 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. I don't know what's going on with the world partition right here because that's not right. Definitely much smaller. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and make our world the scale we want it to be. Okay, so this should be 4 by 4. Right now it's 1 by 1. So we're going to go ahead and put this at 400. And put this at 400, so our x and y at 400. Okay, and when we do that, that's going to drop down our mountain size as well. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is scale this back up, but I'm not convinced that 400 is the right amount, so I'm going to go up to 200 first and see how that feels. With my player in the scene. Oh. Now, if your player is not in the scene, let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. Okay, so world settings, right here, game mode. For some reason, mine's working. I don't know why, but anyway, hit the down arrow in your world settings. If your world settings is not open, it's under Window, World Settings, and then go to your game mode override and pick your BP third person. Okay, hit play. And you know what? I'm going to delete this exponential height fog for now. We can always put that back later. All right. And now it seems about right. Now the mountains aren't showing up because of our partition setup. It's automatically partitioned for us. Okay. So one more thing to do. We're going to go ahead and select, and I'm going to select everything individually over here on the side. So underneath, select all my landscape segments. I'm going to go back to build, and we're going to build the mini map one more time. We can go ahead and save. Because what we've done is we've moved it and we've rescaled it, so now we need to make everything fit again. All right. Oddly enough, the world partition, every other time it works, gives me the exact measurements of the world that we're in. I'm not sure what's changed this time. I have to do a little troubleshooting. Hopefully yours is showing that it's 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers. Not sure what's going on here, but we'll have to I'll troubleshoot it and figure out why mine's doing this. All right, so now we've got our world all set up. Okay. And you should be able to place your start somewhere and run around. You can take a look. You see that we've got some decent looking erosion, and the scale feels about right. And I think this will make a nice game playing area, or if you wanted to work on environmental skills and build out a world, here you go. Now the next video, and that's going to be, of course, it for this video, but in our next video, we're going to go ahead and texture everything. We're going to build the material using our material functions, which if you open up the same project we had from before, we have our material functions here. We're going to build a different material. We're not going to use the same master material we have in here. We're going to build a different material, and we're going to use that along with those height maps we created for the grass, the dirt, and the rock, and use that to put on our base textures. And we're also going to make it so that we can have additional materials that we can paint in, so that we can have things like mud and snow and dirt trails and those type of things. So we'll go ahead and address that in the next video. So if you got any questions, please put them down here in the comment section. And again, check out my other videos here on Putting on the Fritz 3D Visualization. If you liked what you saw in this video, please like it and subscribe. I'll see you next time.